Hello to everybody, and thanks for joining us this week on Up in the Air. I'm Amanda Reynolds.
And I'm Nathan Flinchbaugh.
We had some special visitors this week to the Weather Center. We had some executives from the Weather Channel, and they came and checked out our show.
That's right, they sure did. They gave us some awesome feedback about the show and about our new set. And we'll be looking to implement some of their suggestions here in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned.
We definitely will, and we have a great episode planned out for you guys this week.
We sure do. We'll have a visit from some students in the Weather Risk Management Club, a feature about weather communication, your climate outlook, and of course, much, much more.
But for right now, let's start with Update in the Air. While dealing with tropical storms has become commonplace for some areas here in the United States, areas of the Middle East are far less prepared. Areas of Yemen have been destroyed by an unprecedented 2 tropical cyclones in just 2 weeks. On October 30th, Tropical Storm Shapala rapidly intensified to the equivalent of a Category 4 hurricane. Just 1 week later, Meg formed in the same location, battering the same areas as Shapala, with even more rain. Each of these storms were predicted to drop around 4 to 8 inches of rain, which is more than the average yearly rainfall of 4 inches. Prior to these 2 impacts, Yemen had never had 2 landfalling tropical cyclones in the same year, let alone 2 in 2 weeks. Both of these storms were fueled by above-average sea surface temperatures, as seen here in the Arabian Sea, brought about by the El Niño pattern that we are currently in. Fortunately, both storms quickly dissipated after impact with land without the warm sea surface temperatures to fuel them.
Why would a pack of mules be carrying weather equipment into the Olympic National Park in October? The answer, all in the name of weather research. NOAA has undertaken an ambitious research project for the fall and winter called Olympex, or otherwise known as the Olympic Mountain Experiment, in an effort to calibrate some new advanced weather satellites. NASA's deputy project scientist Walt Peterson says the goal is to connect the dots between what we are seeing on the surface to what we are seeing from space and in the clouds. The satellites are designed to be able to determine how much rain and or snow is falling in any given storm and how much rainfall potential a particular storm might have. Because scientists need to account for various terrains of the Earth, this makes the Olympic Mountains the perfect spot. The project includes putting a new temporary weather radar on the north coast near Tuhola, as well as Canadian officials placing a temporary radar near Victoria to sample the storms as they dry out on the lee side of the Olympics.
Australia was home to some severe weather this past weekend as a low-pressure system battered the eastern coast. Areas from Queensland all the way down to Gippsland were impacted by this very broad line of storms. As Richard Carolyn from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia mentioned, it's actually very rare to see that large of a storm line. You actually need a very active low-pressure trough to extend right through that distance. Frightened by the ominous clouds, residents took to the internet to post pictures of what they saw. Winds of nearly 60 miles per hour ripped through the area, and the storm produced golf ball-sized hail in Sydney. Fortunately, according to emergency managers from Queensland and New South Wales, while some damage was done to buildings and trees, there have been no reports of any injuries from these storms. We'll be back in a moment with more.
This week we have Dalton and Erica from the Weather Risk Management Club here to talk about some of the bugs you might find in your home this winter. Welcome to the show, guys.
With the temperatures dropping, you may be noticing some new friends in your homes.
Some bugs are seasonal and tend to flock to homes in the months of October and November to find shelter so that they can survive the winter.
2 of these types of bugs are the lady beetle or ladybug and the box elder bug.
The ladybug is typically red with black spots. These bugs do not bite or sting.
They are not carriers of human disease and cannot reproduce indoors either. They like to gather on the sunny sides of buildings and in clusters.
Now tell me, how do you deal with these little pests?
The easiest way to deal with ladybugs is to vacuum them up. If you keep the vacuum bag sealed and leave it in your basement or garage, you can release the ladybugs back outside in the spring. They may be pests in your home, but they are helpful in the garden.
Very cool. Another type of seasonal bug that you may see in your home this winter is the box elder bug. These bugs are typically found on box elder trees or maple trees. The mature box elder bug is black with tiny red lines.
Similar to the ladybugs, the box elder bugs gather together in the winter to survive, and they can end up inside your homes.
Unlike the ladybugs, however, these bugs do bite. They do not bite excessively, but they can leave little bumps and irritate the skin.
The main problem with these pests is that their droppings can leave red stains on furniture, fabrics, or carpets.
How do you prevent the bugs from getting indoors?
Well, you can caulk your house and seal up any cracks or little openings where bugs might be able to enter. This typically costs a homeowner $150 to $250.
A cheaper way to clear these bugs is to vacuum them. It is best to use a detachable vacuum nozzle to suck these pests up. As opposed to the ladybugs, these bugs can be immediately put in the outside garbage.
You want to be careful though, because if they do not find another dwelling to find shelter, they may end up right back in your house.
Some people turn to pesticides to deal with these critters. Companies specializing in pest control can be used, as well as brands such as Raid or Roundup.
Pesticides are not recommended though, because if used incorrectly, they can harm your health and the environment.
Long exposure to large amounts, and consumption are very bad for your health. And if you feel that any of this has happened to you, call your doctor.
Keep in mind though, the weather is changing and temperatures are falling. While you try to find protection from the cold, bugs are trying to do the same thing.
Hopefully this information will be useful to you this winter. Have a great day.
And thank you to Clemson University and the Michigan State Government for the information on these bugs and pesticides.
Thanks for joining us this week. We look forward to having more members from your group next week. Welcome back to the show.
Communicating the weather can be quite difficult sometimes.
Most definitely. That's why Brett and Ryan joined us this week to discuss effective communication.
Weather information today is available in more ways than ever before. From your television to your laptop and now your mobile device, it's never been easier to check the forecast.
All of this makes the need for clear, concise, and accurate communication of weather and climate even more important.
15 years ago, it was necessary to wait for the evening news to check the forecast. Now, with an explosion of technology and infamous weather apps, the consumer can, in some ways, be their own forecaster, checking different outlets and comparing various forecasts very easily.
With so many ways to access weather information, the process of obtaining a forecast has become cloudy in some ways. A simple icon and number on your smartphone's weather app isn't sufficient on many days, especially when precipitation is involved. Communication is all about understanding your audience, who you're talking to, and who you're trying to reach.
If a meteorologist makes a perfect forecast or issues the correct warning, but no one understands what they mean, then their job as a weather communicator almost becomes irrelevant.
Take the National Weather Service's Watch Warning System, for example. There are over 120 different colors for watches, warnings, and advisories. Many individuals, meteorologists included, struggle to tell the difference between all of them. In Atlanta, a January 2014 winter storm was fairly accurately predicted, but a misunderstanding of a winter weather advisory issued by the local National Weather Service office prevented officials and the general public from safely riding out the storm.
More recently, the National Weather Service in New York City failed to properly explain the uncertainty in the forecast for the blizzard of 2015. They predicted a record-setting 2 to 3 feet of snow in the city. However, there was no communication of the uncertainty in the track of that storm. Slight changes could lead to a drastically lower amount of snow. As a result, most of New York City shut down to prepare for what looked like a record event, when in reality, only 9.8 inches were measured at Central Park. The general public and media were outraged and looked to meteorologists for an explanation. Jeff Masters, a meteorologist with Weather Underground, explained to CBS News that some models suggested a miss for New York City.
Well, we actually had some models that did a pretty good job with this forecast. It's just that our top model, which is the European model, did not do a very good job. We're used to this model doing a great job. It outperformed the American models during Hurricane Sandy.
But the uncertainty in the forecast was never communicated.
The forecasts are uncertain. We have to understand their uncertainty. I think that actually the forecasters could have done a better job communicating that uncertainty, because we had some models telling us that, hey, New York City might only get 8 or 10 inches.
This idea of understanding the inherent uncertainty in not only storm forecasts, but everyday forecasts, has been a topic of conversation in the weather enterprise for years. A 2006 report published entitled Completing the Forecast made recommendations that weather and climate forecasts must do a better job conveying uncertainty to consumers.
Every time we talk about the future, there is uncertainty, and therefore no forecast is complete without some description of the uncertainty associated with that forecast.
As discussed, communication of weather and climate information is very complex, with many factors contributing to it.
Clear, concise, and accurate communication of forecasts should be of the utmost importance going forward. And the Weather Enterprise clearly places a high value on this.
Although major changes have not taken place in recent years, the enterprise is taking the right steps. The incorporation of social science and understanding how consumers perceive information will only improve communication in the years ahead.
For Up in the Air, I'm Brett Eilertson.
And I'm Ryan Breton.
Thanks for tuning back in.
We were talking earlier about the snow out west. Hunter's standing by at the climate wall with more details. Hunter?
Thanks, Nathan and Amanda. That's certainly right. Places out west have seen substantial snowfall over the past couple of days. This includes locations over parts of Colorado off towards Denver, also pushing up northward, Idaho into Montana towards Billings, seeing some of this snowfall accumulation. As you can see right now, 9.8% coverage across the entire United States. Of course, we're still in November. That number will only grow as we push throughout the next couple of weeks. Also seeing substantial snow over parts of California, also off towards Nevada. We actually have a picture from Reno, Nevada. This was taken by some folks off at the National Weather Service in Reno. Look at this, just snow covering some of the plants there in that image. Plenty of snow area. Across the Reno area, places saw over 6 inches of snow. And just to the southwest of Reno in Mammoth Lakes, California, 20 inches of snow. That's certainly hard to believe. Here in State College, we will likely not be dealing with anything like that over the next couple of weeks. Here's a look at our averages. 51 degrees our average high, 34 degrees the average low. Average precipitation for the month of November, just over 3 inches. But look at the snow and ice category here, 2.3 inches. So we're not going to see anything like what we saw in Reno in that image we were just looking at, but still not out of the question that we do see some snow and other wintry forms of weather here as we push into November. But here's looking at next week's pattern. As you can see, we have a ridge in place, and that really will persist across the area, across the East Coast, that is, as we head into the end of next week as well, and that will correspond to some warmer temperatures as we push into the temperature outlook. The period here, November 18th to November 24th. But here's a look at the temperature outlook. Well above normal temperatures through parts of Pennsylvania. That'll extend up through parts of New England and the Northeast. As we push down towards the Gulf Coast, Florida up through Georgia, pushing up northward, seeing the above normal temperatures as well. Just about everybody in the east will be seeing these above normal temperatures. But as we push out west, well, it's a different story. Below normal temperatures over some of these same locations we were just looking at on the snowfall map. This includes parts of Arizona up through Nevada, California, and other areas out west seeing the below normal temperatures, so not out of the question that we see some additional snowfall as we go throughout the next couple of weeks here. But moving on to the precipitation outlook, above normal precipitation for much of the East Coast. Again, a similar map to what we were just looking at. This includes State College and the rest of Pennsylvania, and extending out westward, a similar story. This is a little bit different actually than what we've seen the past couple of weeks, some slightly above normal values pushing out west into some of the areas that really need it, off towards California, Nevada. Of course, these areas dealing with a very severe drought, and this is certainly good news to see some of the above normal precipitation values extending into this area. And this could also mean that we see some more snow, especially in the mountainous areas over this region as we head into the next couple of weeks. But just look at that drought monitor again. Some of these areas off towards California have just been dealing with this terrible drought for quite some time now, in all these areas out west. But the good news is, as we were just looking at the precipitation outlook, some of these areas could be seeing some well-needed precipitation over the next couple of weeks, which is certainly good news. That's all I have here at the Climate Wall. We'll throw it back to the desk to Nathan and Amanda.
Thanks, Hunter.
Well, that does it for this week.
As always, a big thank you goes out to all of the Penn State students who contributed to the show, and to you, the viewers.
Tune in next week to catch another episode. But for now, I'm Nathan Flinchbaugh.
And I'm Amanda Reynolds. See you next time, Up in the Air.